guys, so I had been doing a series of videos before this one on acoustic guitar and just some basic stuff. I did a little bit of like an intro in the key of G version of the video and just shared why I want to do this, and I also gave a little caveat to music teachers and legit guitar players to ask you not to hate on me, because I know that I'm showing them different and easier ways to play some of the chords, but I'm doing that on purpose because I want them to be able to start and just have a starting point and have a little bit more confidence getting going with it, and not giving up from the beginning because they might not be able to pick it up quick enough. So all of that to say, this one is specifically about the theory behind using a capo. So I had also said in the first video that I truly believe that you can learn 3 keys: the key of G, the key of C, and the key of E, and then you can play any song. Because if you know how to use this is my best friend called the capo, then you can play in any key. So in theory. But so here's the thing. You can use like little cheat sheets and stuff like that and decide like, oh, like what capo to put on and what to play for certain songs. But I wanted you to truly understand why you're putting the capo there in that key to play in that key, right? Because then if you need to think of something on the fly, like if someone's like, oh, I needed to move it from G to G flat, right? If you're like, oh, I needed to move it from G to G flat because I can't hit these certain notes or whatever. Well, then you're like, well, crap, like I was gonna play in G, right? But now in G flat, I'm gonna have to go capo 3 and play an E. And so then you're gonna have to change everything that you're playing, but you can at least on the fly be like, okay, I need to play capo 3 in E. Okay, so then you can actually know the theory of why you're doing that. So I'm just going to be honest with you that if you don't play piano or don't know at least the notes on a piano, it's going to be kind of a little bit more difficult for you to envision in your head. But if you don't play piano and you at least know the scale of what notes exist and why they are the way that they are, then you can still figure this out. Okay, so if you know that an octave is between, there's 8 notes. So if you know that it goes from A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to A, it like stops there. Those are the notes that you have, but then you have sharps and flats in between some of those notes, and then some of them don't have a note in between. So on a piano, it makes sense because those sharps and flats are black keys. So all of the regular notes, A through G, are the white notes that you see on a piano, and then the sharps and flats are the black keys in between. But then if you know a piano, you know that there are a couple spots where there are 2 white keys next to each other with no black key in the middle. That's because those 2 notes are each other's flat and sharp, if that makes sense. So if I can just visually show you without getting out my piano, you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then back to A, and then you're going to have a sharp or flat in between A and B, but not one in between B and C. But then you will have a sharp and flat in between C and D and E. Then there's not one between E and F. And then there is one between F and G, and then G back to A. Okay? So you have to know that these are half notes. Half note, half note, half note, even though it's a technically just a whole like letter apart, that is still considered a half step, okay? So you go half step, half step, half step, half, 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 half. That's also a half step. Half, 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 okay? Those are half steps. So a half step is going to determine 1 fret difference, okay? So a fret on a guitar, I don't know where my pick went. A fret on a guitar determines a half step that you're going up in notes, okay? So if I'm like tuning my guitar, for example, and this is an E, then that means this is an F, okay? Because remember, E, there's no half step in between E and F because F is its half step up, right? E to F, F to F sharp, okay? F sharp to G sharp, okay? To A, and then it goes from A to A sharp to B, and then remember that there's nothing in between B and C, okay? So you have to know that these kind of represent half steps differences, okay? So that will help you understand that you're taking also the key that you're going from to what you're playing in half step understandings. Okay, so what you have to do is take this visual in your head, okay, and understand that if you're going from, let's say that something is in the key of E flat, okay? Let's say that's in the key of E flat. Okay, so if you want to play in this key, you have to go down, okay? So down as in like lower in notes or lower in keys. Because what ends up happening is when you're taking this technically up, you're taking the key that you're playing down, if that makes sense. I know that that's kind of confusing, guys, but basically you can't play the key of G and then take it further down because there's nowhere to go. You're just already playing without a capo. So you're making it higher, okay? So as you're going up the neck, and when I say up the neck, I mean like up towards your guitar. When you're taking it up the neck, basically you need to play in a key that is lower. Okay, so I know that that's kind of weird. So basically you have to take the key that you're playing, okay, and you have to look down to the left. So I could play in the key of D if I wanted to, but I didn't show you the key of D just because that one has a little bit more movement and it doesn't have an anchor point, so it would be one that would be more difficult for you to like have to look at stuff. So what are the keys that I showed you? Okay, I showed you C, I showed you E, and I showed you G. Okay, so I circled the ones that I showed you. So if we're looking at a song in the key of E flat and I want to go downward of what I'm playing, that's C. Okay, so now I have to decide, okay, I can play in the key of C. How many half steps away is the key that the song is in to where I want to play it? So if you look at half steps, it's going to go from E flat to D, that's one half step, to the D flat, that's a half step, and then to C is a half step. So that's 1, 2, 3 half steps down, half steps down. So I need to be capo 3, okay? 3 half steps equals capo 3. Okay? Isn't this like the most old school way to do video editing? I'm not cool enough to know how to like pop things up on the screen, but this is just my old school way of showing you. So if I'm going from E flat to the key of C, I know that E flat goes down 3 half steps, so I'm going to be capo 3, and now I'm playing in C. So now all those chords that I'm playing in the key of C is actually in the key of E flat in what you're hearing. So then this is where your music theory has to come into play. Okay, so this is where the number system is very, very valuable. Just to be honest, our team has not moved to the number system yet. But so we have to like kind of transpose in our heads, which is so much fun. But if you have the number system, then that makes it a lot easier to be like, hey, so in the key of E flat, the 1 is going to be in E flat, but the 1 that I'm playing is a C because I'm in the key of C, so the 1 is the C, right? And then the 4 of the E flat key is going to be the 4 that I'm playing here. Okay, so you know what I mean, if that makes sense. So if I'm playing in the key of C, it'll be 1 is the C, the 4 is the F, the 5 is the G, and then the 6 is the A minor. You know what I mean? If you do play, you know, the 2, the D minor, you just play the D minor normal. But anyway, so basically what you need to do is know the theory of, if I'm playing in the key of C, I know my 1, 4, 5, 6. I just know what those are, and then I can look at the key of E flat and I can say, okay, E flat is the 1, so that's a C. And then if I know what the 4, the 5, and the 6 are in the key of E flat, I can look at it and be like, oh, okay, I know that that is the 5, so I'm going to play the G there, right? So that's where the number system can come into play a lot. But I would also just say that when you're learning some of these things, some of these keys, it actually becomes a lot easier, like, as you just play them, because now I can look at a key like E flat on my confidence monitor, and I can actually look at it and just, like, I know which chords are which ones that I'm playing, because it just, now that I've done them so many times, you kind of just memorize it. But this is where music theory can come into play for sure. So again, for our team specifically, since we do have a subscription to Worship Online, it actually makes it very easy, because it will show you the lead sheet in the right key, but then you can actually select, there's like a way that you can select which key you want to see it in. Or it has like a capo option. So if you know that you're playing in capo 3, you can click capo 3 and it'll show you the key of C chords. So that will help you a lot with practicing, but then you just need to be able to then practice your theory, go back and look at the old lead sheet and try to play along with it. So all of that to say, if you're playing in the key of E flat, you can do capo 3 to C, right? Or if you have a song in the key of D, so again, if you just know your notes, D to C is 2 half steps, so I would be in the key of C still, but just capo 2. So there are some songs, it's like the key of D, like I said, I didn't show you that one because while some of the chords are easy, it is a little bit harder because the B minor and stuff like that. So usually whenever we have a song in D, I always capo 2 and play in C, because that's just an easier one for me to play without looking, because of the anchor point thing that I described. So that's a thing. So then let's say that you're in the key of G flat. You're playing Who You Say I Am, okay? So if you're looking again, G flat, okay? And then if you're looking down, the closest one that I have shown you, the one that I can play in, is E. So I can play in the key of E, cool. How many half steps is that from G flat to E? 2 half steps, okay? 1, 2. So that means that I can play capo 2 in E. Yeah, I forgot what the chords are. Okay, right? So I'm in G flat, but I'm playing in E with capo 2. Okay? So then the only other thing it would be like if you wanted to play in the key of G, for example. So let's say that you had something in the key of F. Oh, wait. No, sorry, not F, because you have to go down, sorry. So let's say that you had something in A flat or in A. Then, yeah, you would have to look at that and look downward. So then the only other thing, so like I said, if you have the G down here, so let's say the biggest jump that you're going to make, honestly, is from B to G, okay? Oh, gosh, I didn't circle it. The biggest jump that you're going to make is from B to G. So, again, you could learn the key of A if you want. It's a little bit harder, but let's say that if you have something in the key of A flat, that's easy. That's just 1 half step. You just capo 1 and play in G. Same with A, do capo 2. If it was B flat, capo 3. Okay, so like I said, with No Longer Slaves, that's in B flat. So I do capo 3 because it's 3 half steps away, and I'm playing in G. The biggest jump is going to be from B to G. So when it comes to capo, the tricky part is that you don't want your acoustic guitar to sound like a ukulele either. You don't want to go so far up, which is why I was showing you like different ones. But I would say that capo 4 is probably like the max. I would say that this is the highest that you can go before it sounds like a ukulele. Even this is kind of high. Okay, so even that sounds really high, especially when you're playing in the key of G and you have these two notes. But you can do it. So like I said, if you don't want to play that high, then I would suggest learning the key of A. But this is kind of the biggest jump that I ever have, because then once you get down to, you're playing the key of, once you get higher than that, you're playing the key of C again. So then it kind of like circles back. So this is going to be the highest that I would ever need to have my capo. So like God, I Look to You would be in this. Right? Give me wisdom. Or like, are you hurting and broken within? So if you're gonna go, oh, come to the altar. Yeah, E minor. Jesus is calling. So if you're doing that kind of stuff, B is going to be the hardest one, because it'll be capo 4 to play in G. So those are just some examples of keys that you're going to be able to do. But like I said, if you're playing in A flat or A, it's just capo 1 or 2. And that makes the key of G very digestible as well. Okay, so gosh, I know that one was long, but I felt like understanding why you're playing with a capo and understanding where to put the capo is really essential. I've had people just kind of like, look up cheat sheets and stuff like that, and those are helpful for a while, but in the thick of it, like if you needed to change keys real quickly, you have to know the theory of why you're putting it there. So if you're able to picture a piano, or if you're able to just picture the notes side by side like I have them on this piece of paper, you're able to visualize how many half steps. So again, like I said, just know that it's kind of backwards. To go up the neck, you have to go down in keys of what you're playing. So you have to take the original key of the song and look down to think of the closest key down that you're able to play in. And then you have to do the math of how many half steps are between those two, and then how many half steps is between is where my capo goes, okay, in the fretboard. So, goodness, I just wanted to share that with you so that it's a little bit easier to understand, not just that I'm putting my capo there and playing this because that's what the internet told me, but that you kind of know why you're doing that. So again, like I said, if you know the 3 keys that I showed you, and this becomes your best friend, you can play anything. And you can play in any key, especially in worship music, when it's mostly 1, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 2. It makes it a lot easier to play. And I'm just like really hoping that these videos will be able to help you guys get started. And these are the things that got me started. These are the only things that my guitar teacher taught me. And I was able to take exactly these principles that I just showed you, and I went from there. And now I play acoustic guitar like almost every single weekend, and I can play any song. So anyway, I hope all of these things helped. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments, and I will try to answer them as best as possible. Thank you guys so much for watching.